Imagine this. You're walking down a dimly lit corridor, each step echoing against cold stone walls. Ahead, a faint sliver of light suggests an exit, but you can't be sure. You feel its warmth, yet every instinct screams that this light conceals something far more insidious than darkness. How can something you crave so desperately hide a trap so lethal? You glance over your shoulder, shadows follow, but they aren't cast by you. They slither along the walls, undulating with a life of their own. You quicken your pace, heart pounding, as the corridor seems to stretch endlessly, as if determined to keep you suspended in this limbo. What force binds you here, tethering hope and dread in equal measure? Is it possible that what appears benevolent conceals a venomous intent, that a guiding hand extends not to support, but to push you further into oblivion? You recall moments in your life when praise felt hollow, when congratulations were met with a silent malice just beneath the surface. The warmth of someone's smile suddenly revealed as a blade poised at your vulnerability. Was that merely coincidence? Or did you glimpse a deeper design at work? You remember the co-worker who applauded your success, only to greet your next accomplishment with a curt nod. The friend who offered advice and then undermined your confidence when you followed it. Your own mirror, reflecting triumphs you believed were unquestionable, but accompanied by an inexplicable emptiness. How many times did you mistake applause for genuine admiration, only to discover you were the star of someone else's silent vendetta? And the more you try to outrun these shadows, the tighter they grip. Each acknowledgement of your worth seems to feed an invisible hunger. The more you shine, the more these forces swarm, like unseen vipers drawn to the scent of your life's victories. You begin to hear questions in your mind that you dare not speak aloud. What is it in you that stirs such dark reverence? Are you destined to be a beacon for envy, forever tormented by those who cannot bear to see you stand taller? Yet perhaps the truest terror, SNT, that they envy you at S, that they hide it so perfectly. They cloak their resentment in congratulations, their contempt in courtesy. If envy were an open wound, you could treat it. But hidden envy festers in silence, in small slights that sting sharper than any overt attack. It poisons your relationships, erodes your sense of safety, and corrodes the bedrock of trust you thought was unshakable. Could it be that envy, when unseen, becomes a force more destructive than hatred? By remaining invisible, it infiltrates every interaction. You shake hands with allies who harbor secret claws. You share your dreams with confidants whose applause conceals the sharpest knives. And in this clandestine battlefield, you fight ghosts tirelessly unable to name your enemy, unable to craft defenses against phantoms. What if the very qualities that mark you for greatness, creativity, confidence, compassion also mark you for this silent aggression? Imagine that every kindness you extend, every milestone you reach, every genuine smile you offer becomes ammunition in someone else's hidden war. They mirror your light, only to distort it, feeding on its brilliance to fuel their own bitterness. You sense their eyes upon you, yet when you turn, they look away innocent, supportive, benevolent. Behind the mask, though, envy pulses like a parasite, anchoring itself to your success. If you lean in to decipher this paradox, you find yourself at a precipice. To accept that envy can exist without obvious signs, or to cling to the comforting lie that what's unseen cannot harm you. Which will you choose? Will you continue down this corridor, drawn to the glittering exit, unaware that the light itself might betray you? Beneath the allure of admiration and camaraderie lies an undercurrent so subtle that only the most attuned senses detect its tremors, and once you perceive its pulse, you cannot unsee it. Your reflection takes on new contours. Every handshake becomes suspect, every word a potential dagger. You awaken to the realization that the world's most dangerous adversary is often the one who smiles the brightest. Stay with this unsettling awareness. Feel its weight pressing upon your chest, a cold reminder that what you once treasured could harbor your deepest wounds. And as you stand on the brink of understanding, remember, the greatest question has yet to be answered. How long will you walk this corridor before you learn to see the invisible? Once you recognize the stench beneath the sweetness, you begin to question everything. Why do these hidden barbs persist? Why does envy cloak itself in flattery, conceal hatred behind camaraderie? The answer lies woven through our psyche, in the forgotten chambers of history and the crumbling ruins of old philosophies. It springs from the same source that gave birth to civilization's greatest achievements and its most appalling. The human mind is eternal hunger for comparison. In the halls of psychoanalysis, Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny or judge unfit for the light. Envy, he observed, thrives in that darkness. It is the shadowy twin, the repressed self that festers when you display qualities your neighbor cannot admit for himself. Each time you dare to stand in your authenticity, your Italians, your joy, your conviction, you project onto others a reflection of what they refuse to see in themselves. They react not to you, but to the image of their own unconscious deficits, which they sabotage with silent malice. Jung warned that shadows unacknowledged within the psyche will manifest externally. So envy left unspoken becomes a collective toxin, poisoning relationships, workplaces, entire cultures. But long before Jung, Arthur Schopenhauer saw envy as the most impure motive that drives human action. For him, the will to live fueled desire, and desire inevitably led to suffering when one saw others obtaining what one sought. To the envious mind, your success is not merely your triumph, it is a personal affront. It awakens a primordial wound, an aching void where self-worth crumbled under the weight of comparison. Schopenhauer believed that such resentment could become so intense that it eclipses the value of truth itself. The envious will lie, cheat, and destroy to neutralize another's advantage. Friedrich Nietzsche carried this further. In his concept of resentment, he argued that the powerless forge moral systems to condemn the when they cannot ascend, they recast strength as vice, vilifying excellence to assuage their wounded pride. Thus the lexicon of envy becomes moral high ground. What you celebrate as ambition, they brand as arrogance. The confidence you wear like armor becomes cruelty in their narratives. Through this alchemy, the envious transform their impotence into righteousness, and your virtues become their justification for silent hostility. Look deeper still, and you find echoes in Aldous Huxley's dystopian visions. In Brave New World, citizens conditioned to accept their caste, never question their stations they lack, desire itself, for desire would imply lack. Yet envy in our world thrives precisely because we possess both desire and awareness. Our conditioning, the cultural norms extolling competition, ensures that some awaken to their yearning, while others remain shackled to it. In that gap between achievement and aspiration, envy germinates like mold in damp corners. Huxley's cautionary tales remind us that in a society obsessed with manufactured happiness, the slightest crack in the facade reveals bitter truths. True joy breeds envy as surely as light attracts moths. Jean-Paul Sartre taught that other people's gaze is a judgment that defines you as a prison of object. When you're seen succeeding, you are reduced to an object to be evaluated. This constant scrutiny intensifies envy, because your achievements become not personal victories but public commodities. The envious derive satisfaction not from their own growth, but from your regression. They do not simply wish for your fall. They need you to fall, for your triumphs eclipse their existence. Sartre believed that freedom is boundless responsibility, but the envious recoil from responsibility by trying to diminish others' freedom to shine. Viktor Frankl, who emerged from the horrors of the Holocaust, argued that suffering finds meaning in choice. But envy perverts this truth, twisting suffering into an instrument of self-justification. In the grip of envy, people rationalize their grudges. I'm hurt because I deserve what they have. They distort the narrative of their own lives, turning themselves into victims to validate the aggression lurking beneath facades of politeness. Frankl's insistence on meaning through suffering collides with envious refusal to bear the pain of self. Instead of asking, "What can I learn?" the envious whisper, "What can I destroy?" These philosophical roots entwine with cognitive science. Our brains evolved to monitor social hierarchies, to detect status shifts that could mean survival or exile. Neurologists have found that envy activates the same threat centers as physical pain. Our minds register social comparison as an existential wound. In modern society, this ancient circuitry misfires constantly. Social media exposes us to curated highlights of others' achievements, triggering automatic envy responses. But unlike physical wounds, which heal, the sting of social pain reopens with every like, every congratulatory comment that conceals a hidden barb. Cultural conditioning amplifies these neural impulses. From childhood, we're taught that competition equals worth. Winning grants love, losing invites scorn. The educational system rewards top performers and punishes the rest, sowing seeds of envy into the fertile soil of ambition. In workplaces, Quotas and performance reviews become battlegrounds where hidden hatreds fester. Each promotion you earn is another betrayal in someone else's story on injury they nurse in silence, externalizing your success as their failure. Even our language betrays us. We call it keeping up with the Joneses, a phrase so embedded in our lexicon that we forget it originated in 19th century editorial satire. A society that mocks the rat race inadvertently sanctifies it, turning our neighbors into rivals and friends into spectators. We laugh at the absurdity, yet we perpetuate the very system we joke about. This double-bind feeds the hidden malice. We condemn the rat race but celebrate the winners it produces, fueling envy's engine even further. Yet the deepest irony is this: envy depends on recognition. One cannot envy an unseen rival. It requires both a shining example and an internal sense of deficiency. Without contrast, without light, envy withers. But that same light, the brilliance of your achievements, the purity of your intentions, is the very beacon that draws envy's hungry gaze. You cannot eliminate envy by dimming your own shine. To retreat is to surrender your authenticity, feeding a different form of despair. So why does this hidden hate persist? Because turning the lens inward is painful. Admitting envy in ourselves means confronting our own shadows, our secret despairs. Psychology offers tools: dream work, active imagination, but they demand courage. Philosophy provides maps: existential choice, meaning through suffering, but they require confrontation. Society wraps us in comfort, numbing the blade of envy with denial, but at the cost of our own agency, and the result is a hidden war, fought not with swords or guns, but with silences, with half-words, with smiles that hide fangs. As you feel the full weight of these forces, the unconscious shadows, the moral alchemy, the neurological pain, the cultural crucible, remember that awareness is the first step toward liberation. The hidden problem is more than other people's envy. It is the collective refusal to acknowledge the darkness in ourselves. Only by shining light into these recesses can we begin to see the true contours of the battlefield. But still, the greatest dangers lie ahead, in consequences unseen yet omnipresent. The ways this silent malice ripples through your life, shaping choices you scarcely notice. The shadows you fear outside may already dwell within, coloring your perceptions and steering your path. You stand at the threshold of revelation. Will you step forward or recoil into ignorance? The next chapter begins with what happens when hidden envy escapes its bounds and reshapes reality itself. Your life unfolds like a vast tapestry, each thread a decision, each knot a hidden pressure. Yet beneath the patterns you see, a silent current pulls at your choices, warping the image you believe to be your own. You felt it, that inexplicable hesitation before a promotion, the momentary doubt when praise reaches your ears, the subtle urge to withdraw when congratulations flood in. These aren't random glitches in your psyche. They are the unseen consequences of envy's covert reign. Consider your mind as a theater, where conscious choices play out on stage, while an unseen crew works in the wings. Cognitive biases act as stagehands in disguise, subtly directing the spotlight away from your triumphs and toward imagined flaws. Confirmation bias whispers confirmation of your insecurities. See, you knew you'd falter. Projection convinces you that others think as you do, attributing your own envy or self-doubt onto those who praise you. Mirror neurons, designed to foster empathy, betray you by magnifying social pain. Every glance of disapproval triggers the same neural circuits as physical injury. Thus, a single sideways glance from a colleague can feel like a blow to your heart, even if none was intended. As these biases weave through your thoughts, they alter the very fabric of your reality. You begin to interpret neutral comments as hidden barbs, friendly banter as veiled criticism. You retreat from genuine relationships, erecting walls to guard against phantom attacks. Loneliness seeps in, not as solitude by choice, but as isolation by fear. You wonder if something is wrong with you, that perhaps you carry a defect so profound that the world must tiptoe around your bruised ego. Yet it is not you who is flawed, but the subtle mechanisms of comparison that have ensnared your mind. Meanwhile, your nervous system registers every perception of envy as a threat. Neuroimaging studies reveal that social rejection and envy spark activity in the anterior cingulate cortex and insular regions responsible for pain and distress. You don't just feel jealousy, you experience genuine suffering, as real as if someone had struck you. In those moments, your logic retreats, and survival instincts kick in. You lash out, withdraw, or self-sabotage, all in an attempt to neutralize the perceived danger. The fight-or-flight response hijacks creativity, empathy, and rational thought, leaving you vulnerable to the very forces you seek to escape. Culture fans the flames. In a world sculpted by social media, envy finds fertile ground. Every curated highlight reel, every triumphant selfie, every celebratory post becomes a battleground where you measure your own worth. The dopamine rush from a like ties value to digital validation, but envy poisons the well. For every like you receive, you glimpse thousands you do not. The comparison trap is relentless. Your timeline becomes a parade of successes you have not attained, feeding the disquiet in your mind. You scroll at night, wrists aching, brain buzzing, until you believe that your life is perpetually inadequate. Workplaces are no refuge. Performance metrics transform colleagues into competitors. Promotion boards and bonus schemes create scarcity where none truly exists, encouraging covert hostility. You sense camaraderie evaporate as team members guard their status, and you learn to whisper congratulations behind closed doors, fearful that open admiration will trigger backlash. Every team lunch becomes an arena, every brainstorming session a covert duel for intellectual supremacy. Behind professional pleasantries, a simmering resentment coils, ready to strike when you reveal even a hint of vulnerability. The ripple effects span beyond interpersonal strife. Envy seeps into self-perception, shaping your aspirations and values. You begin to question your goals. Are they yours, or have they been channeled by the jealous impulses of others? If someone's silent hostility can redirect your path, how much of your trajectory is truly self-doubt mingles with ambition until they become inseparable, each goal tainted by the fear of attracting fresh envy, each dream tempered by the worry of unseen sabotage. And yet, you cannot stand still. Stagnation breeds its own curse. The mind demands growth, meaning, purpose. So you push forward, chasing milestones and external markers of success. But as you ascend, the weight of envy's shadow grows heavier. The higher you climb, the further this unseen vortex pulls at you, threatening to flip every victory into a defeat. You learn to second-guess your achievements, attributing them to luck or favoritism. You start apologizing for your progress, softening your words so as not to threaten others. You dim your light-folding ambition inward, believing that humility will shield you. Instead, you shrink, losing precious fragments of your true self. This internal contraction has tangible costs. Your creativity dims because you fear outshining peers. Your generosity wanes as you protect scarce resources, time, energy, recognition from those you suspect harbor resentment. You adopt a transactional view of relationships, constantly weighing what you can give against what you might take. Trust erodes, replaced by strategic alliances and coded conversations. Genuine vulnerability becomes a casualty. You present a curated self, polished and safe, rather than the messy, brilliant human you are. Beyond your personal sphere, the societal impact is profound. Envy's silent contagion fosters environments where innovation flags, collaboration falters, and conformity reigns. When individuals conceal their talents to avoid provoking jealousy, society loses the very contributions it needs to evolve. Great ideas are left unspoken, courageous voices silenced, dreams abandoned. The collective pathology of hidden resentment stunts cultural progress, impeding breakthroughs in art, science, and community. Yet perhaps the most insidious consequence is the narrative you craft about yourself. Stories shape identity, and envy's undercurrent rewrites your story in real time. You become the protagonist in a tragedy, not a hero in a quest. Each setback confirms the plot. I am doomed to be undermined. Each success is reframed as a fluke, a prelude to downfall. This self-fulfilling prophecy tightens its grip until you cannot see a path beyond its conclusion. The map of your life shrinks to the margins, and you mistake the margins for the whole. But even in this darkness, a fissure of possibility emerges. Awareness of these unseen forces is the heart's first rebellion. To notice the biases, to feel the neural spike of rejection, to name the cultural script that is to glimpse the mechanism of control. And once you see the gears turning behind the curtain, you stand at the threshold of choice. Will you remain a marionette, tangled in envy's strings, or will you step back, learn the choreography, and reclaim your agency? In that liminal moment, when the weight of unseen consequences presses hardest, you sense something else stirring beneath the surface. a silent promise that understanding can birth liberation. The journey ahead demands courage deeper than any you have summoned before. But before that transformation can begin, you must face the full measure of what has been lost and what you stand to regain. The next step beckons. But first, let the gravity of these unseen consequences settle in. Feel their contours, their sting, their conviction. Only then will you be ready to break free from envy's covert dominion. You stand at the edge of a great chasm, the weight of unseen forces still pressing against your chest. But something in you refuses to yield. A quiet ember flickers, daring to challenge the darkness. What if the very mechanisms that have imprisoned you could become keys to your freedom? What if the biases that distort your vision could be recalibrated to guide you toward clarity? The path ahead is neither easy nor expected, for true rebellion demands turning inward as fiercely as any revolt. Begin by naming the enemy. Call envy by its true name. Strip away the polite smiles and veiled compliments until you face the raw impulse beneath. When you catch a twinge of resentment stirring in your heart, pause, breathe, acknowledge it. This is envy, my mind, reacting to perceived lack. In that moment, you convert a phantom attack into a conscious choice. You refuse to remain at the mercy of unconscious reflex. You become the witness, the arbiter of your own psyche. Next, invert the comparison. Instead of measuring yourself against others, measure yourself against your own past. Imagine your life as a spiral staircase, each step lifting you higher than before. Are you fitter, kinder, wiser today than you were a year ago, a month ago, even a week ago? By shifting the axis of comparison inward, you turn envy's weapon back upon itself. The victory no longer lies in outshining another, but in outgrowing your former self. Every small improvement becomes a triumph, every stumble a lesson that propels you forward. Cultivate gratitude as a radical act of defiance. When envy twists your vision to fixate on absence, gratitude refocuses your gaze on abundance. Start a clandestine ritual each morning before the world demands your attention. List 3 things you failed at yesterday and why you are grateful for them. The failed presentation that taught you humility. The missed connection that revealed a new friendship deeper than convenience. The moment of self-doubt that compelled you to seek support and found you a mentor. Embracing these fractures in your facade disempowers envy's hold. You discover that weakness can be fertile soil for growth. Seek out the antithesis of envy, authentic generosity. When someone succeeds, offer more than a perfunctory congratulations. Pour genuine curiosity into their story. What did you learn? What challenge surprised you? How can I support you next? In doing so, you rewrite the social script. You transform the congratulatory handshake into an invitation to collaboration. Your sincerity disarms hidden hostility. It forces the envious to confront their own impulses. And even if they recoil, your generosity remains intact, a testament to your freedom from silent malice. Adopt the historian's perspective. Look back across time at figures who embodied this rebellion. Consider Nelson Mandela, who faced decades of imprisonment yet refused to let bitterness define him. He transformed injustice into a platform for reconciliation, refusing to be chained by envy for freedom he had lost. Or Frida Kahlo, whose physical torment and competitive art world could have bred jealousy. Yet she channeled her pain into colors so vivid they captivated the world. Their lives teach you that suffering and envy need not be your rulers. You can alchemize them into sources of creativity and compassion. Embrace what psychologists call self-compassion. When envy wounds you with its barbs, when praise still stings, or a subtle slight cuts deep, turn inward with kindness. Speak to yourself as you would to a friend. It is understandable you feel this way. This feeling doesn't define you. Research shows self-compassion reduces social pain, rewires the threat response in your brain, and frees you from the imperative to retaliate or retreat. By nurturing yourself, you break the cycle of wounded survival and open space for genuine connection. Challenge the culture that fuels envy. Unfollow social feeds that keep you trapped in perpetual comparison. Curate your information diet with as much care as you would choose your companions. Replace highlight reels with raw stories, podcasts of failure narrated by the victorious, essays on loneliness authored by the confident. Surround yourself with voices that model vulnerability and celebrate collective success. In this ecosystem, your growth becomes a shared narrative, not a solitary race against hidden foes. Train your mind like an athlete. Daily, engage in a practice called negative visualization, borrowed from Stoic philosophers. Envision losing everything you hold dear, your status, your talents, your relationships, and feel the grief. Then, imagine regaining them, one by one. This exercise inoculates you against envy's torment. When you contemplate the fragility of all things, you cling less fiercely to comparison and more to presence. You learn that joy need not be tethered to superiority, for you carry within yourself the capacity for gratitude even at rock bottom. Forge alliances beyond your comfort zone. Seek relationships with people radically different from yourself in age, background, culture. When you immerse in perspectives that challenge your assumptions, envy loses its bite. You witness triumphs and failures through distant eyes, and the reflex to compare softens. You realize that every path is unique, that someone else's peak does not diminish your own valley. In diversity, you find the antidote to uniform standards of success that breeds silent resentment. Finally, commit to radical transparency, starting with yourself. Keep a hidden journal charting every moment of envy, every stab of doubt, every creeping resentment. Write without censor. In the dark ink of confession, you illuminate the shadows. Over time, patterns emerge. You see triggers, habitual lies, recurring narratives. And once you map the terrain of your envy, you can navigate around its snares. The diary becomes both crucible and compass, a record of what to avoid, and a testament to how far you've come. This rebellion is not an uprising of fists and fury, but a subtle revolution in the sanctum of your own mind. It is a guerrilla war fought with introspection, gratitude, compassion, and courage. It demands confrontation with your own darkness, even as you disarm the darkness in others. When you shift the battlefield inward, envy loses its power to derail you. You cease to see shadows in every smile, and instead discover echoes of your own humanity in every face. As you plot this course, feel the tension easing. The walls of the corridor begin to fracture, light flooding in from new angles. You sense your heartbeat synchronized, not with the drum of competition, but with the rhythm of your own choices. Each step forward affirms your agency. You are not a victim of hidden hate, but the rebellion courses through your veins, a silent anthem that refuses to be silenced. Ahead lies a final threshold, the ultimate truth that'll shatter every remaining illusion. But before you step through, take this moment to feel the power within you. Stand tall in the center of your own psyche, unguarded and unashamed. The rebellion has begun, and with it, the promise of a freedom that envy can neither steal nor conceal. You stand at the threshold of revelation, the air humming with possibility. Everything you have learned, every hidden dagger you have named and disarmed, leads to this moment. Now, ask yourself, what if envy itself is not the ultimate enemy, but a messenger pointing toward a deeper truth? What if the true liberation lies not in escaping envy's shadow, but in transcending the very framework of comparison? Imagine a vast horizon unfurling before you, not as a contest of heights, but as an expanse of unique landscapes, each unfolding according to its own rhythm. In this boundless terrain, you are neither ahead nor behind, you simply are. Your journey is not measured by markers on someone else's map, but by the unfolding of your own terrain. Here, envy dissolves, for there is no other summit against which to measure your view. Breathe deeply and feel your bones the relentless hum of comparison once the drumbeat of your life fades into silence. In that silence, you hear something else, a gentle pulse, the cadence of your own becoming. It carries memories of childhood wonder, long buried beneath achievements and anxieties. It recalls the first time you painted with reckless abandon or lost yourself in a book without care for who might applaud you. That impulse, that pure spark of unself-conscious creation, is the lodestar you have sought all along. This is the ultimate truth. Your intrinsic value is not awarded by external scores or hidden sympathies. It is woven into the fabric of your own existence. You discover that every person you have envied and every person who has envied you shares in this same miracle of being. Each of you is alive for only a fleeting flicker in the cosmos, and within that flicker lies an entire universe of thought, feeling, and possibility. To compare one universe to another is to misunderstand both. Feel how this realization reframes your past. The bitter moments of jealousy and sabotage become signposts on a pilgrimage toward self-discovery. Each phantom wound you bore was a teacher, a mirror held to fractured reflections demanding integration. The times you shrank to avoid stirring hidden malice were actually opportunities to practice your own resilience. The silent wars you fought in back channels of the mind were forging an inner citadel, capable of withstanding any assault, external or imagined. Now, look at your wounds with gratitude. They are trophies of a journey through darkness that has brought you here. They remind you that you are alive, that your capacity for envy signals depth of feeling, that your ability to be wounded reveals the expanse of your heart. What once felt like curses now appear as sacred thresholds you had to cross to arrive at this summit of understanding. As this truth settles in your bones, notice how your relationships shift. No longer do you seek validation to fill a hollow self. You offer presence, curiosity, and genuine wonder. You'll listen for the pulse of each person's unique path, not to compare but to connect. In gatherings, you sense the collective vibration of being rather than the clatter of social pecking orders. Conversations bloom with authenticity, no hidden bids for status, no veiled attacks. And when envy surfaces, when the old reflex to measure and diminish flickers back, you greet it as an old friend, a messenger announcing an unmet need or unacknowledged desire. You no longer recoil or lash out. You simply ask yourself, what is this feeling pointing toward? What longing does it reveal? Perhaps it tells you to nourish a neglected passion, to extend compassion to someone you've judged, or to reclaim a sliver of your own voice muted by fear. In this way, envy becomes a teacher, not a tyrant. It guides you toward holes in your own wholeness, beckoning you to fill them with curiosity, self-care, and creativity. The contrast that once tormented you now serves as a compass, showing you where to venture next on your inner map. Your accomplishments no longer stand as beacons to provoke silent violence. They stand as invitations. You share your triumphs, not to boast, but to illuminate possibilities for others. You celebrate not to provoke envy, but to model a way of being that values growth over comparison. Your light no longer attracts vipers, because you have replaced fear-driven radiance with the warm glow of genuine presence. And what of those who still harbor hidden hatred? Their envy loses its sting when it no longer finds purchase in your self-image. Like leaves falling from a tree that has rooted itself deeply, their resentment drifts away, unable to cling. You do not need to fight these currents. You have changed the nature of your vessel. It moves through the waters with equanimity, buoyed by the knowledge of its own depth. See how your world expands? Opportunities emerge, not as competitions but as shared adventures. Collaborations form not out of strategic alliances but out of spontaneous recognition of kindred spirits. You witness a shift in the culture around you. Envy's covert hostilities give way to an ecology of generosity, where differences are celebrated, not This is the final, most powerful realization. Freedom is not a destination to be earned, nor a status to be granted. It is the very manner in which you inhabit your being. It is the unconditioned state that emerges once the chains of comparison fall away. When you understand that every life is a singular melody, you no longer strive to play the loudest note. You simply join the symphony, adding your distinct harmonies to the chorus of existence. And in that symphony, you hear a refrain that transcends envy, the pulse of unity woven through Each heartbeat is its own rhythm, each breath its own verse, yet all converge in the song of life. You realize at last that the hidden hatred you once feared was merely the echo of fear itself, the fear of being unseen, the fear of being unworthy. By owning your worth, you dissolve that fire, and with it, the envy that sustains it. Feel the peace that settles over you, not as a fleeting calm, but as a bedrock assurance. You have seen the shadows, named them, and walked through them. You have reclaimed your light, not by dimming others, but by shining unashamedly. And now, you stand in the luminous center of your own truth, our ever-unfolding landscape where envy no longer reigns, where comparison holds no sway, where each breath is an affirmation of your unique miracle. Hold this realization as you step forward into every moment. Let it shape how you see yourself, how you relate to others, how you move through the world. May your life become a testament to the freedom that lies beyond hidden hatred, a freedom woven from acceptance, compassion, and the unshakable knowing that you are, always have been, and always will be, complete unto yourself.